everyone, it's Gerda here, of course. How are you doing today? Wowzers, I see we've got 11 people already to get stuck into this PPS coffee chat on this Monday morning. Let's see who we have here. If it is your very first time that you're on a PPS coffee chat, please let me know in the questions section. We've got Daniel, we've got Jenny, Kate, all the way from Mildura. How's things over there, Kate? It's very rainy here in Brizzy. We've got Kim, Marie, Melissa, Nick. Hey, Nick, Susan, Susanna, and Susie. Fabulous. I'm so glad to have you all on here. It's always so much better when I know there's actually people here with me. And I was thinking, Nick says, hi, everyone. So, Nick, I assume that you can hear me well and see the slides, so that's good. Kate says, glorious day here in Mildura, 30 and sunny expected. Fabulous. Nick says, sure can. Awesome. All right, because I was thinking with the change in daylight savings that we might have a few less people than normal, which is fine, of course, because we do record it. I see Jackie's also hopped on. Hey, Jackie. Mel has also joined us. Fabulous. All right, guys, let's get started because today is a fully, I must say, very full content topic, and I feel constrained only have 30 minutes because I can probably talk half a day about this topic if I allowed myself to, but we're not going to go overboard, Gerda. You're just going to stick to what you've got on here. Jenny says hi, Jackie says hi. Alrighty, PPS Coffee Chat number 10. Just because we always have new people joining our PPS groups, a brief 30-second overview of who I am. I am Gerda, of course. I'm a clinical psychologist and owner of the Psych Professionals, which is 2 group psychology practices here up in Brisbane. I also have the online arm of the practice called yourpsychonline.com that I started in 2013. There below is a picture of my team. It's not the complete team. That's just everybody that was there on that day. And in the middle, of course, is me, my hubby, and my 3 kiddos. Of course, these days I don't spend a lot of time at the practice. My time with my practice is really limited to a couple of clients that I see every 3 weeks or so. I still supervise, I think, 2 people now. Yes, 1 currently, but there's a new one coming on board for clinical endorsement, and I meet with my management team actually this morning. After this, I'll be meeting with them to just provide some support in terms of what they're doing. So yes, these days, of course, I run Private Practice Success Australia. Oops, we've just jumped a topic there, another topic, a slide. So if this is your first PPS coffee chat, how this works is as follows. I'm going to give you 20 minutes of very jam-packed content. As questions arise as we go along for you, please pop it into the question box for me so that I can go through that in the last 10 minutes. And of course it is recorded, so if you can't make it live, don't stress because you can re-watch it. If I'm going a bit fast, it's okay because it's recorded, and again I would recommend that you re-watch the recording, especially when it comes to really complex or what could be very complex topics like today's topic. Now, today's topic choice was sparked by some recent conversations in our general PPS group, or more specifically, I should say, Jo that was thinking of taking on her first team members and was contemplating, do I subcontract or do I appoint my team as an employee? And I think it's a really great question to ask, especially at the start, and to make an informed decision, because it's much harder changing them over. I think it's much easier changing from the subcontracting model to an employee model than it is changing from employee to a subcontracting model. All right, and that's probably where you can land in trouble if you've got employees and now all of a sudden you want to make them subcontractors. So asking this question right from the onset is a really good thing to do. So awesome thinking there, Jo. Hey, Natalie, glad to see that you've jumped on as well. All right, so I thought what I will do is start by looking at what does the APS says. Now, I know there's people in our groups that are very closely linked to the APS and are strong supporters of them. I've got a bit of a love-hate relationship with the APS in that I know that they don't always get things right. They do a lot of things very well, and then there's certain things where they drop the ball. So I guess what I'm saying is the APS, even though they're a huge organization, are still human in terms of them also making mistakes every now and then. But I think it's always good practice to look at what does the APS says. I look at everything the APS puts out there, but I do not follow everything to the letter. All right. I do follow everything to the letter that is set out in the ethical code of conduct. Okay. Why? Because that's just how it is. You want to be ethical and everybody needs to follow the same rules, because otherwise it's very easy to have a different interpretation of what the right ethics are. And of course, our insurance is based on following the ethical code of conduct. So you have to. However, you would know that a lot of the ethical code of conduct is not really related to business. Some of it is and will, come into play with the business side, but a lot of the ethical code stuff is related to actual clinical client work. Though the APS, of course, puts out a lot of other guidelines around, running a practice, that type of thing. But just having some water. What I also know, and I say this with all due respect and love for the APS, unless you've been in private practice and you've been in the trenches, you've got no idea. No idea. It's the same reason that when I run my how to start a private practice workshops and I'm speaking to people wanting to go in private practice, a lot of them might still be provisional and they're starting to think about what they want to do once they get their full registration. A very important piece of advice to them is, you're going to have to let go of your academic supervisor, because although we love them, they've got no clue. They've got no clue as to what happens in the trenches of running a business on a day-to-day basis. And if you're going to follow the rules, in inverted commas, that they have the audacity to give you, then you're really going to struggle. And really, how can they even give you guidelines on what you need to do if they haven't been in private practice? That's just my thinking around it. Of course, and again, I say this with all due respect. Hey, Tess, thank you for joining me. However, again, coming back to the fact that you still want to check out what the APS says, you want to take it under advisement, and then you want to still make your own informed decision. So the APS have got a great document called Models of Private Practice, a practice guide for psychologists. Now, the APS has put out a lot of articles and stuff around subcontracting. A lot of those articles are very fear-based. When I read it, I went, geez, Louise, just stop it altogether. But this document is really probably one of the best pieces of content that I've seen the APS put out there in terms of it being really very objective. And I suspect it is because this document was put together by Dr. John Brown. He's actually a practice owner in Canberra. His practice is called Psych Sessions, and therefore this thing really makes sense because he's a practice owner. Alrighty, so if you are an APS member, make sure that you hop onto the website and download this document for yourself. So in this document, they look through and they talk about sole trading. They look at having independent associates contributing to shared resources. So in a nutshell, that is like a room rental agreement. Then they look at partnerships. They look at having a company. Then they look at employees or independent contractors, which of course is the topic for today. And then they look at being a franchisee. And can you see that this is a really very comprehensive document in terms of looking at all the different models. And the document itself is less than 10 pages long, so it's really very succinct, and that is what we need, of course, as private practice owners, because who's got the time to read a 50-page document anyhow? All right, so what I did then is I looked at that and I screenshot it for you, because I do know there's a lot of you that might not be APS members. a section that they had under this part where it talks about employees or independent contractors. He actually had this comparison table setting out a comparison between having permanent employees versus casual employees versus contractors. And again, guys, I'm going pretty quick here. Remember, you can look at re-listen the recording, but I do want to get through all of this for you. All right, so permanent employees. It says here that this offers the greatest security and fairness for the employees, but the greatest obligation and administrative load for the employer, including having to budget and manage cash flow for recreational and personal leave, continuing to pay employees, fulfilling PD requirements, etc. I can tell you it's etc., etc. So yes, great security for the employees, but for a small business owner, it can be a huge burden. And again, guys, it's about knowing what you're getting yourself into and how you are planning to manage the decision you make. It also says there complicates the association between revenue generated by each employee and the hours that they work, thus greater financial risk for the employer. So if you are going to go the employee route, you need to be very clear in terms of, is each position really paying for themselves? Now, we have billable positions in our practice, such as our clinical team, and then we've got non-billable roles, for example, our admin team. So you really want to run each clinical team role, not a member, the role itself as a profit center, where they have to generate the money that's going to pay for themselves and still contribute to covering the administrative support team that you're going to have on hand. So guess what I'm saying is that you need to be really good at keeping your eye on the numbers and tracking all of that stuff if you want to go the employee route. All right, casual employees. Remember, guys, if you've got questions, please pop it into the question box for me. It says here, so casual employees has simpler admin load and financial risk for the employer, but employees don't get paid during periods of leave and may be expected to bear costs which the employer may otherwise be expected to pay, such as professional development, registration requirements, supervision, insurance, etc. And then there's just a note about something that's a bit different in the ACT, which I'm not going to go into now. All right, so again, casual employees. Of course, you need to also be mindful that if you've got a casual employee that does the same hours week in, week out, that they're going to be considered permanent anyway after a certain number of time, and you will have to give them the perks and benefits that goes with being permanent. Let's have a look at contractors then. It says with contractors, there is more control and flexibility in when activities are completed. That is, of course, control and flexibility on the part of the subcontractor, as long as contract deliverables are met, which means that you as the employer, if I'm going to use that word, or the business owner or the business, still have the right to set contract deliverables. All right, doesn't mean the subcontractor can just, run riot over you. You still need to say that you need to do this by this time. Contractors do not have many of the normal employee benefits of being part of an incorporated legal entity or companies such as work cover and legal protection. Now, I will say that there's rumblings that work cover are changing in certain states, so you need to check that out. If personal service income exceeds 80% of the business, it can affect what can be claimed as business tax deduction. Don't quote me on this one, but I suspect that this rule no longer applies. Be that as it may, that is not relevant to me. Even if it still applies, that's not relevant to me as the practice owner. That is relevant to the subcontractor, and it's really their responsibility to sort that shit out. It's not up to me. They need to make an informed choice and decision if they come work for me, whether working for me equates to 20, 30, 80, or 90% of where they get their income from. Does that make sense? And that is where they need to have that control. You need to worry about stuff that relates to you as the business owner, and let them take responsibility what relates to them. I too often get hear people getting hung up on stuff like that. All right. So that's what they've got here. Now, having just gone through this, having heard some of, words like obligation, admin load, burden, budget, project. All right, you think, geez, am I a psychologist or am I, what am I? You're a business owner. All right, so this is how I see it in terms of making this decision. All right, because a lot of times there's so much fear related to making the right choice here. It's all about risk versus return for you as the practice owner. All right, so if I can use an analogy, a really bad analogy, for example, not really an analogy, but another example, I know when I arrived in Australia, I had my first super fund, they give you all your paperwork and then you need to tick, because obviously super, it gets invested, the money that you put into super gets invested on the share market. Now, you then get to tick a box that either says, the one box means that you're probably going to get a lower return, but it's a safer investment. Or you can be really brave and check the other box, which means that you can expect more growth, but it's a higher risk investment. And that is how this stuff works. It's risk versus return, and how much risk can you really sit with on a day-to-day basis. And you know what? I don't sit with risk on a day-to-day basis because I've gone through this decision. I know what I need to do and I follow the rules. So for me, there's not a lot of risk in. But I can tell you whether you take the employee route or whether you take the subcontractor route, they both have risks. All right? And if you're going to go to an advisor who's an accountant or a lawyer and they are inherently more risk averse, they will give you a recommendation to help you err on the side of caution, whatever that is for you. All right. But let's look at a few more specifics here. As you would notice just from my previous content, I'm not giving you a definitive answer in terms of what you need to do. Okay, because I think there is no definitive answer. There is no right or wrong. There's just what is right or what is wrong for you. So you need to know what is right for you and your vision for your practice. How big do you want to grow? If you've got visions of growing really big, you need to follow and implement a model that's going to mean some money into the practice coffers so that you cannot line your own pocket, but so that you can use that money to reinvest back into the practice, whether that is pay 6 months bond in advance and fit out a new second location or whatever it is. So the decision you make in terms of the employment model can significantly tie your hands in terms of the future growth of your practice. Now, again, you might go, let's say for argument's sake, because I've seen this happen, people go, okay, I know this subcontracting model is going to be financially more viable for me, but then they go and they appoint their team at 60, 65, 70%, and they still have no money. All right, there's so much stuff that you need to get right. It's not just one little decision that you need to get right. It's a combination of things. And you can do step 1, you can get it right, and you can stuff up step 2. Like, let's say you go, as I just said, appoint people as subcontractors, but you give them too much because you're desperate. Alrighty, let's have a look here. All right, my other piece of advice would be not to make fear-based decisions. That is not how you run a business. When you run a business, you need to look at all the risks, and if you decide to take a risk, it has to be a calculated risk, and you need to know what it is that you are working towards. You also need to know what the risks for each option is, okay, and then make a decision based on that. So if you've done any motivational interviewing, you would know what a decisional balance sheet is, including weighting of different options. So a decisional balance sheet is really looking at the pros and cons of each option, and based on where you're at, how big your practice is at, etc., you're going to have different pros and cons than I or someone else, which is why I don't have a list of pros and cons on here. all right? Because it's going to be different for each one of us. Whenever I run my How to Start a Private Practice workshop, we actually go through a process where we look at the 4 ways to enter private practice. We run a list of pros and cons. It's part of an exercise that we do on the day, and it's different every time based on people's experience, based on what people know, what they've heard, what it is that they want, their vision for their practice, their values. It's different, which is why you need to do one for yourself and stop looking at what other people you know, think is best for them, because you need to make an informed choice for yourself. All right. With that, also knowing what the risks are for each person. Hang on, I'll come back to that one because I think I spoke about this a bit later. All right. Yes, so you want to do the decisional balance. And when I talk about including weighting, if you look at the pros and cons, maybe there's 10 cons, but you know, how bad are they? So you want to rate that on a scale from, you know, 0 to 10. Then you want to own the decision that you make. So let's say if you decide I'm going to go the employee route, then you need to go and learn everything you can about having employees and what are the rules and all of that type of stuff. So you really want to become an expert on it so that you know how to follow the rules properly. So the better you are at knowing and being an expert on your chosen option, the less the risk. Okay? And the less the risk. And I sometimes think that I find that when I speak to people or when I listen to people ask questions around this, they suspect that if I make the right choice, there will be no consequences or no repercussions. Well, the bad news is, irrespective of which option you make, there could be consequences. You might choose the subcontracting route and somebody might still report you to the ATO. You need to be willing that that's going to happen, and that if it does, that I'm just going to work through the process because I've ensured that I've ticked all the boxes and I've managed it properly. All right, if you decide to go to employee route, you need to know that just because you decide to employ doesn't mean there's not going to be any comebacks. Did you know that an employee can still take you on for unfair dismissal, even though there's unfair dismissal laws that don't apply to small business owners? So you guys might know, if you've got less than 15 staff, unfair dismissal laws doesn't apply to you. Hang on, do you know that they can still report you? All right, it happens. It's happened to me. All right, and this was with my admin team. They can still report you. And Fair Work still needs to set up a mediation with you and that person, even if it is a frivolous claim. And then even if unfair dismissal laws don't apply, they can say that you've discriminated against them based on their age, or you didn't give them enough training. There's so much stuff that they can pull out of the hat and use it against you. So again, no route is choice is 100% safe, and you need to know that whatever option you choose is going to have consequences. You are very unrealistic, and yes, I get very passionate about this because sometimes I think, you know, we are such clever people in this industry, but we can be so unrealistic because of the fear that underline our decision making, that we think if I just get this decision right, I can relax and there's going to be nothing bad's going to happen. Well, I can tell you something bad will happen. It's just a matter of time. But if you can pass what I call my can I sleep at night test, in terms of, do I manage my employees properly? Do I manage my subcontractors exactly like the rules state? If I know I do that, go ahead, go report me. Go make a case, because I know I'll be fine. And it's happened. And I've been fine every time. So you need to you need to know that it's going to come. All right, whether it's in 6 months or 6 years, it might happen. If it never happens, then you're very, very lucky. And of course, very important, you want to seek your own accounting and legal advice from people you trust, i.e. your accountant and your lawyer. And you want to keep in mind that at times they also get it wrong. It happens. Now, if you've heard me talk about this, you would know that I have been taken to the ATO twice before, each time because I ended people's contracts because they weren't performing as subcontractors. And the first person that actually reported me to the ATO, she said, Gerda, this is not personal, blah, blah, blah. She said, my accountant said that I should have been an employee, and my accountant said that you should have paid me super, and my accountant said that you should have been paying pay as you go tax, all of that stuff. So that was the advice her accountant gave her. ATO came back after I did the questions and I answered it all, said, go away. Gerda paid, that does not need to pay you anything. You were a true subcontractor. So again, sometimes accountants can get it wrong. So my accountant that I have know exactly what I do, you know, and I subcontract, as you guys might know as well. All right. Running out of time, as I expected I might. Awesome. All right, so I do want to share with you guys, for transparency purposes, what I do in my practice. So I do employ 2 people from my clinical team. First and foremost, I employ my provisional psychologist, Andrew. Of course, APRA rules state that you cannot subcontract them. So Andrew's with us only 1 day a week. He works with us on a Friday. He actually has another job at Disability Services, I think, 4 days a week, and he comes to us for client hours, and I pay him as a as a casual employee. And then I employ my principal psychologist. But the reason why I employ that person is that I want to pay them really well. They do a lot of non-clinical hours, and I only employ them because they've already worked for me as a subcontractor, and therefore I've had an opportunity to test their motivation, their drive, their commitment, and their attitude towards work in general, towards the practice, and towards you know, what we do in this field and industry. The rest of my clinical team, I subcontract all of them. That's just what works for me. What to me is a fairer option for everybody involved. And I've when I say that, I remember that I've done a vlog actually sitting at my swimming pool. So you need to go, if you go onto the my Facebook page and you go through the titles there, I've done quite a significantly long vlog on subcontracting on there as well, which is why where I actually talked about why I think it's a fairer option for everyone involved. And then I of course employ my administrative team. As I said before, I've been reported to the ATO twice. Both times they told me all good, don't have to worry about it. The thing is, guys, as I said earlier, you need to accept that it happens, that you could be reported, and that you have to deal with it when it does. But you also need to accept that people can still report you to Fair Work and put in all other types of claims with performance management and those type of things. So really what you want to do is trust in your application of the rules as it applies, because it is why it is there. You still need to follow the rules, which are very important. All right, Q&A time. 3 minutes. I don't see any Q&A time. I think everybody's just been sitting there. We've got 19 people live. Everybody's been sitting there just like listening. Guys, I will be, of course, putting the recording up in the Facebook group. I would love if you've got questions to continue the conversation in there. Now, maybe after you've had a couple of hours of digesting some of this information. Alrighty. Of course, I don't see any other questions other than Tessa's question about decisional balance, which Tess says I've answered already for her. All right. So if you are interested, just so that you know about resources available for you on my gerdamala.com.au website, I do make available my subcontracting agreement that I use in my practice. I actually just had this agreement reviewed. I paid $1,000. I pay that every year to have it reviewed, because I know every year there's legislative changes and I need to make sure that I keep up to date with all the rules and regulations. I paid $1,000 to have it reviewed. I've received the feedback. It's in my inbox. So if you do obtain a copy of this contract, you know, within the next couple of weeks, or even for those people that have obtained a copy in the last 2 to 3 months, I'm going to send them an update updated version of the agreement as well. So I'm planning to go through that feedback. I think it was something like 2 or 3 pages in terms of looking at that and adding that into the agreement, because I actually had a couple of extra things that I wanted to add into my agreement that was more specifics, and I asked them to report back on that in terms of, is it okay, how to word it, all of that type of stuff that's going to be in there as well. So do check it out. It will probably cost you 50% less than what you would pay if you go somewhere else. And this is the exact contract that I have used at my practice. All right, let's do the last check for any other questions. Oh, hang on. Christina says, can you please tell us a little about your latest promo for aspiring practice owners? You need to tell me exactly what you are referring to, Christina. Latest promo for expiring practice owners. Tess says, not a quick question, I suspect. My employment lawyer has tweaked our contractor contract to avoid being reported to the HO, but he still recommends employing clinical registrars because of the supervision, making it more like an employee model. Any immediate thoughts? No, I won't be employing clinical registrars, Tess. I'm sure you knew the answer to that one. And that is because we make it their choice in terms of, and it's very clearly set out in the contract, that they can either choose to have external supervision and pay for it themselves, they can have it with us and pay as they go, or they can have it for free, but they need to then repay it, in inverted commas, I guess, by staying on for a certain amount of time after they've received their clinical endorsement. So again, it's their control and it's their choice, and you know, because it's their choice, that's a true subcontracting agreement. Jackie says, thanks, Gerda. Just starting to think about putting a subcontractor on. We'll be starting the interview process soon. Fabulous. Okay, Christina says next level mastermind. Okay. So Christina, the next level mastermind is a monthly membership group. So you basically pay, I think the current investment is something like $2.56 per day to be part of this group. There's quite a number of people in there. How many do we have? We have about 50 practice owners in there, and it is where you get training pieces once a week. So for example, we're doing a learning piece later today where I train them up on something. There's resources. It's just an amazingly supportive group where you get more ongoing, I guess, training and resources directly from me. So a lot of people contact me, want to work with me one-on-one, but I'm very what's the right word? Reluctant to take on too many one-on-ones because I've got 3 young children, you know, and I've got a lot of stuff and commitments and things, and therefore I started this program so that people can have mentoring and coaching with me, but at a lower investment level for themselves. So it's something that benefits everyone. For people that really are very motivated, driven, like that 1% of people that says, you know, I'm going to expand my practice and I want to do it now, like in the next 12 to 24 months and all that type of stuff. I do have higher level programs like my Inner Circle, but I would, you know, I just personally think every person that is a practice owner needs to be in the next level mastermind. But be sure to check out the website. Nick says, how do you write that into the contract? I'm assuming you are talking about the supervision, Nick. It's just in there. It's part of the, I've got a clause in there. The registrar payback for supervision thing. Yes, it just says there that, you know, you've got these 3 options, and one option is that, you know, you're going to get free supervision. However, if you choose to, if you leave the practice, I think it's within 12 months of completing your clinical endorsement program, you need to repay back plus GST the cost of that supervision, and we will then invoice that person. I've only once had to invoice somebody for that. So it's also a way of really ensuring that I get my return on investment from giving up my time to do that clinical endorsement process. And it's just in there as a contract. Jackie says, Next Level Mastermind Group is great. It helps tremendously with mindset and strategy. Thank you, Jackie. Christina says, sounds good. Nick says, how long do they need to stay on for? So my contract says 12 months, Nick, 12 months. Okay, I think anything more than that would be a bit pushy. I know some people that has taken on my contract has made it less to 6 months, but I go, no, no, it's a hell of a commitment for me as a practice owner to give up that time with them. And I know when I was a clinical, you know, when I wanted to get my clinical endorsement, not that I had to do all those hours, I know how motivated you are and how expensive it can get. So I think it's a give and take situation, and that also allows people to make an informed decision in terms of how long they want to stay with the practice, and for them to really reflect on their commitment to the practice. And if they say, you know, I can't commit to 3 years with the practice, so 2 years of supervision plus 1 here, then it's fine, you know, then you want option 1 and 2 instead of 3. You know, so again, it comes back to their decision making and choices. Nick says, great, thanks. I like this idea. It is common in other industries. Exactly, Nick. Just because we are helping professionals doesn't mean we're not running a business. We sure are. All right, let's finish with some parting words. The one who falls and get up is so much stronger than the one who never fell. And I chose this one because, like I said earlier, we sometimes expect ourselves to make a decision and we expect it to work out, but guess what? Life means that it's not going to always be roses and things are going to go wrong. And please, you need to trust in your skills and your strategies as a helping professional that you will be okay. You need to trust in this community that there's going to be people to support you, all right? And just because you're making a decision doesn't mean there's not going to be any negative outcomes, because sometimes things happen that you just cannot control. So do not have those unrealistic expectations that, oh, geez, I need to make the right decision so that nothing goes wrong, because life will tell you that things will go wrong, but you will be okay. Alrighty, thank you for everybody that's joined me. Have a fabulous week, and I'll post up this recording in our group. Speak to you again soon. Bye.